Hey, what's up everybody? This is Anthony, and today we're going to talk about two things. One is, where do I put my money? And two is savings accounts. So there are a lot of people that I know that take their money from their job and they toss it in a checking account and it just sits there and they spend it and then they just kind of rinse and repeat and then just do that and they don't earn any income off of that. Or what's worse is they do have a savings account, but they have like one of the major bank savings accounts and they only get paid like 0.01% or 0.02% on that savings account. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that is why I'm here today, is to talk to you about what I use, the bank that I use, and there are other banks out there, but the bank itself is not really the key to the conversation. The fact that you're looking for high yield, that is the key to the conversation. So let's start with asset allocation. When that money comes in, where do I put it? So when the money comes in, it's going to go into a checking account. And typically, you're going to want to have a threshold that you don't want it to go below. And a lot of people will think, well, I don't want it to go below zero. Well, that's bad. If you're thinking of zero as zero, then you're going to be dancing close to that. And then one bad thing's going to happen, and then it's going to plow below zero. And you're going to have to pay all sorts of fees for that. So you need to say that some other number is the new zero. For me, it's $1,000. So I say $1,000 is the new zero. I don't let my account go below that. But then once you have matured this thought process that you don't want it to go below a certain number, say $500 or whatever works for you, then you want to think, well, I don't want it to go above a certain number either. And the reason for that is the more money you have sitting in here, the more your money is losing value by sitting in here, because you're not going to find a checking account that's going to pay you as much interest as a savings account will. So, money comes in here and a lot of stuff happens on this side. You pay bills, you pay your credit cards, you pay your bills, credit cards, house, rent, you name it. There's all sorts of stuff that is going to branch off on this side. And I'm actually going to make another video where I'll talk a little bit about this, how you can earn rewards from credit cards and how you can pay your bills with credit cards and earn rewards off of that. So that's a whole other topic of conversation that we're not going to focus on. But we're going to focus on this side, which we're going to say this is the savings side. And it's not just savings accounts that you need to focus on, but that is what we're going to focus on today. So the way I like to think of my money coming in is basically I think of it as like a fountain. So, if my savings, the money comes in here and then it pushes over into a savings account. Think of a fountain as like this bowl, right? That has water in it. There's water kind of spraying up. When you like my artwork, there's water. And then what happens is that it overflows on each side. And then once it overflows, it goes into another bowl, which does the same thing. Water overflows, and then it continues. So the concept here, hopefully you can see my beautiful artwork. The concept here is that, let's say I've got $1,001. So I've got one extra dollar after paying all of my bills and my utilities and things like that. I've got one extra dollar. Well, that money needs to flow over to here and then fall into this top tier savings account. Now, for me, this top tier is going to be my taxes and insurance for my home. I don't have it escrowed, and the reason why is because escrow is not paying me anything, but a savings account is. So I put the money inside of the savings account. I do this every month, and then at the end of the year, when I pay for my year's worth of insurance and I pay my taxes off, I've also got this extra chunk of money from the interest that I received from that savings account sitting in there as well. So that's the first tier. Now, again, my example said if I only have $1, then it's going to come into here. I don't have anything extra to overflow down to here. So I need to make sure that I have enough extra money flowing into here that as extra dollars come available, it can flow into the second tier, all right? So this second tier for me is my emergency fund. And this is fairly steady. So once you get to a point where you have your emergency fund, then this is going to be full all the time, and then everything extra is going to fall into this third tier. All right? So the emergency fund is definitely fundamental. And a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of products out there. There are CDs, there's savings, there's retirement, there's investments. And people are like, well, what should I put where and how much and how do I know? Well, if you think of it in the context of this fountain, then you know there's an order in which things need to happen. And once one checkbox is checked, then it makes sense to move to the next one. So the next one for me below that is my retirement account. I put money into my retirement account every single month. A lot of people will tell you maximize your IRA, put as much as you can in your IRA, and that makes sense for most Americans. Honestly, it doesn't make the most sense for folks that are entrepreneurial in nature because there are ways to invest and have your money available now. You don't want to tie it up, things like that. But for the majority of Americans, it makes sense to do it this way and put money into a retirement fund. Now, from there will be another tier below this, another fountain that this would flow into. That would be other things like investments. And this could be things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, things like that. You can start dropping money into these after you've covered all of the rest of your bases. So, but until you're confident and until you're matured in here, until your accounts have matured, then you really don't want to be looking at these yet because there's some fundamentals that you need to make sure that you're not missing. All right? So that's kind of how that works. Now, I said I was going to talk about the savings. Now, this clearly retirement account is not a savings account. However, these two are. So taxes, insurance, emergency fund is going to be a savings account. And for me, I use Ally Bank because I've been with them for a long time. And because they pay right now, it's 2% interest. So compare that to things like, to banks like Bank of America, Chase Bank, the major banks. You know, it doesn't make sense to me why anybody would ever have a savings account in one of those banks, but people do. I have friends that have savings accounts at USAA is another one. It doesn't make any sense at all. Their rate is like 0.01% at all of these banks. It's like between Bank of America, Chase, USAA, a lot of them, Wells Fargo, you're going to get somewhere around 0.01, maybe 0.02 or 3%. But the difference between this and this on $10,000 over the course of a year is insane. So you can almost one for one it, meaning the one would be $1 roughly after 1 year on $10,000. And then here, this would be roughly $200. It's actually like 201, but so just round it, roughly $200. And that's an easy way that you can just kind of spitball it, I guess you could say, for on $10,000, how much you could make over the course of a year, given the account. If it's 1.5%, if you find a bank that pays that, then $150 is going to be about what you're going to make over the course of a year. So when you look at this, when you look at 0.01%, knowing that off of $10,000, they're only going to pay you $1, that's like stealing. It's like robbery. They're taking money from you because no matter what, you're not beating inflation here. But come on, $1 versus 200, I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. Another thing people like to look at when it comes to things like investments is CDs. So CDs is another one, certificate of deposit. And it used to make sense to have a CD. Back in 2007-8 time frame, you could find CDs that paid 5 or 6%. Now, say a 4-year CD at Chase Bank, 4 years at Chase, pays 1.4%. So if you take your money give it to the bank for 4 years just to sit there. You cannot touch it for 4 years unless you want to pay a penalty. They're going to pay you 1.4% per year. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why would you do 1.4% and lock your money up and not be able to touch it versus putting it into another bank like Ally? I think Discover has a good percentages away as well. There are other banks out there, but where you can get over 2%. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. This is not locked in. You do not have to leave your money here. This is locked in. So if an emergency happens after, say, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, and you need that money, then you have to pay some of that back. It doesn't make sense. So hopefully this is making sense for how I kind of allocate savings that comes in and the specific accounts that you can open. You want to just Google high yield savings, and then from there you'll find a lot of options. But again, I use Ally for mine, and you're going to find others like Synchrony is another one that has some good rates as well. But I am not promoting Ally. They're not paying me to say this, but I'm definitely a long-time customer. They have a pretty easy platform to use when it comes to savings. And yeah, and that is all. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you have any recommendations for other viewers on banks that you found, please post them below. And help a neighbor, pay it forward. And then next time we'll talk about this over here, which I didn't draw, which is going to be credit cards. We'll talk about rewards that you can get. I earn rewards on all of my credit cards, and it's pretty strategic in nature. And it's not a whole lot of work to set any of these things up. Once you set it up, it's done. It's just like a one-time deal, and it's set up, but you need to take the time to do it. So that is all, and you have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.